What if I told you that you're living a lie? Not a small one, but the lie, the kind that shapes everything you believe about who you are, where you came from, and where you're going once this heart stops beating. Most people spend their entire lives convinced they belong to themselves, that the awareness inside their head is theirs, their most valuable possession. But what if it's all backward? What if the truth is so unsettling that when someone truly understands it, their perception of reality expands so much that it can no longer fit within this plane of existence? There was a man named Itzhak Bentov who decoded reality in a way very few people ever have. He wasn't a mystical guru disconnected from science. He was a brilliant engineer, an inventor of life-saving medical devices, someone with flawless credentials in the scientific world. But then something shifted. He began uncovering the deeper mechanisms of consciousness, understanding how multidimensional reality actually works. His discoveries were so groundbreaking that even the CIA took an interest in what he had to say. And then, just as he was about to present his most important conclusions, he died suddenly in one of the worst airplane accidents in American history. A coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe there's something about the nature of the soul, about spiritual awakening and the expansion of consciousness, that certain powers would rather keep hidden. What you're about to discover will challenge every comfortable belief you carry about life, death, and what it truly means to be conscious. The real question is, are you ready to face the mysterious truth about reality, the one that made Bentov's consciousness no longer able to remain confined here? Because once you understand this, there's no going back. Imagine a man who survived the hell of World War II, helped build rockets in Israel, and later became one of the most brilliant medical inventors in America, and that was only the beginning of his story. Itzhak Bentov wasn't just an ordinary engineer, he was someone who looked at reality and noticed layers most people never even suspect exist. Born in Slovakia in 1923, he carried an insatiable curiosity about how things truly work, not only in the physical world, but also within the unseen realms of consciousness that few dared to explore. After immigrating to the United States, Bentov stood out by creating revolutionary devices like steerable cardiac catheters, saving countless lives through his practical ingenuity. But while his hands were building machines, his mind was diving deeper into the mysteries of existence. He wanted to understand not just how the heart pumps blood, but how consciousness pulses through reality itself. It was during this journey that he wrote Stalking the Wild Pendulum, a book that blended science and metaphysics in a way few dared to attempt at the time, suggesting that everything we call real might simply be a specific frequency of vibration. What makes Bentov truly fascinating is that he decoded reality using both microscopes and meditation, equations, and deep intuition. He wasn't a mystic disconnected from science, nor a scientist blind to the subtler dimensions of existence. He was a bridge between those worlds. And as you begin to uncover what he actually found in that search, it becomes easier to understand why some people see his mysterious death as something more than just a tragic accident. Now, this is where things get genuinely interesting, and maybe even a little unsettling for anyone who has always accepted reality as something solid and final. Bentov proposed an idea that challenges everything we've been taught, the notion that you, me, the chair you're sitting on, even your thoughts at this very moment, all of it is nothing more than pure vibration, moving at different frequencies. This isn't poetic metaphor. He literally argued that physical matter is simply consciousness vibrating in a particular way, and that when you change the frequency, you change the reality you perceive. He went deep into the science of consciousness, studying how the human heart beats in sync with brain rhythms, and how both can resonate with the Earth's natural frequencies, like the well-known Schumann resonance, that electromagnetic pulse of roughly 7.83 Hz that surrounds our planet. Think of your body as a musical instrument. When it's out of tune, life feels chaotic and disconnected, but when all your strings vibrate in harmony, especially through practices like meditation, you literally sync with the universe. It's as if you suddenly tune into the right radio station and the signal becomes crystal clear. For Bentov, this understanding of multidimensional reality wasn't just theory. He measured it, calculated it, and showed how our nervous system functions like an antenna, capable of picking up different frequencies of existence. Once you realize that spiritual science isn't separate from physics but an extension of it, your sense of what's possible begins to shift. And that shift in perception is exactly the next crucial point he went on to explore. Bentov had a brilliant way of explaining why some people seem to see things others simply can't, and it had nothing to do with madness or an overactive imagination. He used the metaphor of a perception gap. Imagine looking at reality through a narrow crack in a wall. You only see a tiny fraction of what actually exists on the other side. Our ancestors lived with that gap even tighter, perceiving fewer colors, fewer dimensions, fewer possibilities. But as humanity evolves, that opening slowly widens, allowing consciousness expansion to happen naturally across generations. The problem, and this is something society rarely admits, is that when someone's perception gap opens too wide, too early, whether through a mystical experience, deep meditation, or even trauma, that person is often labeled as troubled or mentally unstable. Bentov argued that many so-called mentally ill individuals are actually going through an early spiritual awakening, perceiving layers of reality the rest of humanity isn't ready to process yet. It's like trying to explain color to someone who only sees in black and white. They wouldn't call you a visionary, they'd call you crazy. This revolutionary idea about soul evolution suggests that we're not evolving only on a biological level, but also expanding our ability to access an infinite awareness that has always been there, simply waiting for our nervous system to develop the right antennas. And once you begin to understand this, an even deeper question naturally arises: if our perception is evolving, who or what is actually perceiving through us? Bentov's answer to that question turns everything you think about identity upside down. Get ready, because what comes next is probably the most radical and transformative idea Bentov ever shared with the world. We don't have souls, a soul has us. Let that sink in for a moment. We spend our entire lives believing we own our consciousness, that the body is running the show. Bentov flipped that idea completely. He suggested that you are not the driver of this vehicle called the body, you are the car, and the soul is the driver, using this temporary physical experience to gather experiences across multiple lives and dimensions. Think of it like an advanced video game. The player, the soul, the higher self, exists outside the game, controlling the character, you, inside this environment called physical reality. The character believes it's real, believes its choices are entirely its own, but in truth there's a much greater consciousness operating through it, learning, evolving, and experiencing. And here's the real shock. In the highest states of awareness, these individual souls begin to overlap and merge into what Bentov called divine consciousness, or unity consciousness, a single ocean of awareness, of which we are all just temporary waves. This concept of what is the soul, according to Bentov, blends metaphysics with practical observations about altered states of consciousness, and it speaks directly to the secret teachings that ancient spiritual traditions have always whispered about. Separation is an illusion, individuality is temporary, and deep down, very deep down, we are all expressions of a single infinite consciousness experiencing itself in countless ways. But if this is true, if Bentov really decoded reality in this way, why did he die so suddenly shortly after sharing these discoveries? That question carries far more weight than it seems at first glance. The story becomes even more intriguing when we discover that Bentov's ideas didn't remain confined to dusty philosophy books, they made their way into the secret corridors of the CIA. Yes, you read that right, the United States Central Intelligence Agency was deeply interested in what this Israeli inventor had to say about consciousness and reality. The famous Gateway Process, a CIA project that remained classified for decades and only became public relatively recently, explored techniques to alter states of consciousness, induce out-of-body experiences, and access non-ordinary perceptions of reality, and Bentov's work was directly referenced in the technical analyses of this program. Although Bentov was never officially part of the CIA or its projects, his studies on bodily resonance and on synchronizing the frequencies of the heart, brain, and nervous system to access altered states of consciousness were considered essential to understanding the mechanics behind the Gateway Process. Think about that for a moment. A government intelligence agency, known for espionage and national security, was seriously studying how to expand human perception beyond the five senses. This isn't science fiction, it's real, declassified documentation. So what were they truly searching for? Access to hidden knowledge? Ways to obtain information through a multidimensional reality? This connection between Bentov's theory and government operations focused on consciousness expansion raises deep questions about what certain institutions may know about the nature of reality, and why that knowledge isn't widely shared. If techniques developed from Bentov's ideas can genuinely shift perception and access information beyond physical space and time, as the Gateway documents suggest, then we're talking about something far beyond spiritual theory. We're talking about consciousness technology with real, practical applications. And perhaps, just perhaps, there are very specific reasons why this kind of knowledge has remained in the shadows. This is where the story takes a darker turn and begins to raise questions no one can answer with absolute certainty. On May 25, 1979, Itzhak Bentov boarded American Airlines Flight 191 to California, where he was scheduled to present his groundbreaking discoveries to a group of Japanese scientists. He was at the peak of his research, on the verge of revealing something truly significant. Minutes after takeoff, the plane crashed in one of the worst non-terrorist aviation disasters in U.S. history, killing everyone on board, including Bentov. A tragic coincidence? Unfortunate timing? Or is there more to this story that deserves closer examination? The official facts are clear and undisputed. It was a mechanical accident, a structural failure, nothing more, case closed. But this is where things start to get interesting. When someone is about to share knowledge about consciousness, about accessing realities beyond the physical, about the true nature of the soul and its relationship with divine consciousness, and then dies suddenly before completing that mission, people naturally begin to ask uncomfortable questions. We're not talking about wild conspiracy theories here, but about a very real historical pattern in which mysterious deaths sometimes surround those who get too close to certain truths. Think of Tesla, think of other pioneers who died at the wrong time. The mysterious truth about reality that Bentov was uncovering touched on ideas that challenge fundamental power structures. If people truly understood that they are multidimensional beings, that life after death is not a belief but a mechanism, that infinite awareness can be accessed independently of institutions or authorities, imagine the impact of that realization. Of course, there is no concrete evidence that Bentov's death was anything beyond the official explanation. Still, the timing raises eyebrows, especially when you consider what he was carrying on that trip and who he was traveling to meet. What we do know for certain is that his ideas did not die with him, they continue to echo to this day. So after this journey through Bentov's life and ideas, the question that remains is simple: what do you do with all of this? How does this knowledge about consciousness, vibration, and multidimensional reality translate into something practical for your life here and now? The answer is closer than you might think. It begins with something as simple as your breath. Bentov showed that practices like breath synchronization and focused meditation are not just relaxation techniques or hippie stuff. They are, quite literally, tools for tuning the body-mind system to universal frequencies, allowing access to deeper layers of reality that exist beyond ordinary perception. But here's something society doesn't want you to know. When someone begins to experience expanded states of awareness through these practices, when doors of perception start opening on their own, the system often tries to suppress or pathologize that experience. Bentov warned that our culture is afraid of genuine consciousness expansion because truly awakened people are hard to control, hard to manipulate, hard to keep confined inside comfortable boxes. When you start realizing that you are more than just this body, that your consciousness isn't limited to the physical brain, that you can access information and states the official reality says are impossible, well, that changes everything. The core message here is both revolutionary and simple. You are not a limited consciousness trapped in a mortal body waiting for an inevitable end. You are infinite awareness temporarily focused on a physical experience, and that experience is only a tiny fraction of who you really are. The higher self, that larger dimension of your consciousness, is constantly guiding, learning, and evolving through you. And when you begin to align your daily life with this understanding, when you stop living on the survival autopilot and start consciously exploring these deeper dimensions, something extraordinary happens. You begin to live in a way most people don't even realize is possible. Now, before you rush off thinking you have all the answers to the universe, it's important to put things into perspective with intellectual honesty. Itzhak Bentov was undeniably brilliant. His medical inventions saved real lives, his books inspired thousands of people, and his ideas about consciousness continue to influence researchers to this day. But here's the truth we need to acknowledge. His theories about the mechanics of consciousness, about soul evolution and multidimensional reality, are not part of established mainstream science. They exist in that fascinating and controversial space between proven physiology, bold metaphysical speculation, and concepts drawn from ancient spiritual traditions. Official science still treats consciousness as an emergent byproduct of brain activity, neurons firing, chemistry happening, and suddenly you have thoughts and subjective experience. Bentov proposed something radically different, that consciousness is primary, that the brain functions more like a radio receiver than a generator, and that spiritual awakening has mechanics as real as the laws of physics. These ideas resonate deeply with people who have had direct experiences of altered states, who have felt firsthand that something much larger is going on beyond the materialist model, but personal resonance is not the same as rigorous scientific validation. Bentov's legacy lives in this delicate space. He offered a bold bridge between the science of consciousness and metaphysics, between equations and enlightenment, between the laboratory and the temple. His ideas about hidden knowledge and how to access deeper dimensions of reality continue to inspire both serious explorers and opportunistic charlatans, and it's up to each person to discern which is which. What no one can deny is that he had the courage to ask questions most scientists avoid, to propose answers that challenge comfortable consensus, and to live a life dedicated to unraveling the deepest mysteries of existence. And perhaps, in the end, it's exactly this kind of questioning courage that humanity needs most. So now you know. You've just been exposed to an idea most people will go their entire lives without even scratching the surface of, that we don't have souls, a soul has us, that you are not a limited body waiting for the end, but infinite awareness temporarily experiencing a physical reality. The real question now is, what are you going to do with this? Will you let this information fade away like just another interesting video you watched, or will you actually begin to explore the deeper dimensions of your own consciousness? Think about it with me. If Bentov was right, if there really is a higher self operating through you, if divine consciousness can be accessed through simple practices like breath synchronization and focused meditation, why wouldn't you test this for yourself today? What do you actually have to lose, except maybe the comfortable illusion that you already know everything about reality? How many people live and die without ever discovering that they are multidimensional, that they can access states of awareness society insists are impossible? Do you want to be just another statistic in the matrix of collective unconsciousness, or do you want to be someone who truly awakens? Here's my direct challenge to you. For the next 7 days, dedicate just 15 minutes a day to synchronizing your breath, calming your mind, and trying to access that deeper frequency Bentov mapped. Pay attention to what happens. Notice the shifts. And then tell me in the comments, what did you experience? Did your perception change? Did you feel something you can't quite put into words? And one more thing, how many people do you know who need to hear this? Share this video with someone who's ready to question the official version of reality, because this kind of knowledge about consciousness expansion needs to circulate. If you made it this far, you've already shown you're not an ordinary person. You're someone who seeks truth beyond the veil, who wants to understand the deeper mysteries of existence. And I'll keep bringing this kind of content that few people dare to talk about, revealing the secret teachings and hidden knowledge that transform the lives of people like Bentov and can transform yours too. So subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications, because the next video might be the missing piece in your consciousness puzzle. The journey of soul evolution is just beginning. Are you coming with me, or are you going to stay on the sidelines watching?